to the Debug Podcast.
Hey, you listening to the Debug Podcast.
Hey y'all, you're listening to the Debug Podcast.
Hi, my name is Alicia. I'm one of the organizers here at Silicon Valley Debug.
I'm Julianne Sines, and I'm one of the youth at Debug.
Hello, I'm Santos Loyola, and I'm an intern here at Debug.
Back in mid-July, we went to a youth empowerment conference. Y'all are our new youth at Debug. I think I kind of stepped out of that role a little bit now. But how was your guys' experience? What did you guys think about the conference?
I thought the conference was pretty interesting and unique for me being that being my first one, and just a whole bunch of people coming together and the same age group or younger and coming together and to be leaders in their own community and fix what's wrong, pretty much. That's what I got out of it, and it was a good thing to see.
I thought it was really cool. I learned a lot about other organizations and how they work. And I also learned new facts about the incarceration system and different things like liberating schools, which I didn't previously know about. And I thought it was really cool and educational experience.
I think you were the youngest person at that conference. I think everybody else was like in their early 20s. So how did you feel? How did you feel about that?
As an 18-year-old there, I felt very young. I felt like still developing my wrinkles. Everybody in their 20s is all saggy. It was really cool. It was interesting because a lot of people there were like, we need full-time jobs. And I'm like, oh, I'm okay. I work at Baskin Robbins, guys. So it was really interesting, especially with the different perspectives, because I noticed everybody was dressed very, a lot of people were dressed up, and I was in a t-shirt and jeans, and I was like, oh, this wasn't in the dress code. So I felt very, underdressed and more immature with how I presented myself. And also, I feel like they had so many more, working stuff that they were doing that was more like a job versus more on the side, I guess, like what I do. So I was like, oh, you guys have this career, and it was a lot different. How did it feel for you?
How it felt for me? Oh, like I said, it felt good. Like, I was just really trying to retain the information and get it so I can understand it more, hear other people's stories and how they became who they are today. So it was really just taking in and a lot of just grasping onto it because there's a lot of information provided. But overall, I think it went good. I was nervous. I'm nervous right now doing these things, but I like to take myself out of the comfort zone. But I'm looking forward to doing something like that again, and you keep doing it continuously on top of my school and everything else.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of the topics of the conference was a lot about being an advocate for yourself, not only being an advocate in a social justice movement, but being an advocate for yourself to kind of climb up different ladders or different chains in the workforce in a kind of nonprofit environment. And at Debug, we're structured very differently. So what did you think about a lot of their topic conversations were about how to advocate for yourself, how to make sure that your worth is being acknowledged and all of that kind of stuff in different organizations and in different spaces that isn't necessarily how we're structured here at Debug.
I'm going to be really honest. I felt like it seemed really lonely. It's wow, you're just kind of your own individual person. Where here I have people like Cherise being like, oh, here you have a voice. You have the podcast to do stuff on. And there it's yeah, I just one day randomly decided to call them, and now I have to work for my job or work for my place. And it's no matter how much I do, it doesn't guarantee me a spot in this community. And I feel that's kind of not sad. It's just it's really different from Debug, because here I feel everybody's a family. Oh, you're at Debug? Okay, cool. It's a lot differently structured. I did talk to the what is it called? The ED? Yeah, the ED, Hernan. Yeah. And then he was like, oh, who's your ED? And I was like, Raj? Sharice? I don't know. I was like, we're not like that. And I think after I kind of said that, he really was like, oh yeah, like somebody asked me for like a full-time job. Like I need this job to support myself. And like some of them had kids, and it was very eye-opening to other people's situations, especially with trying to come into this career, because they have a lot of passion, but they don't have anywhere to put their passion to use. So it just realized how many sparse openings there were, even with how unseen a lot of the stuff that we touched on is. So it's like, even though this stuff is so not underground, but isn't shown in the public eye, there's just such little space for you to actually make a change or an impact, especially in these nonprofits.
I've been working with Debug and then seeing everybody else's work. I like more like here it's like family based. It's not too crazy. It's more go with the flow. But over there I was seeing like she was talking about job opportunities, this and that, not really taking things through as in a family way, taking consideration and all that. But Debug, I feel it's more go with the flow, family style, but also teaching you the ropes of things, community based, helping people, helping families, and at the same time feeling at ease and not feeling too much pressure on yourself.
I did notice I tried to talk to one of the girls in the bathroom, and I was like, oh, how long have you been involved? She's like, oh, I've worked here for like this long, and I've done all this and this and this. She was like, how long have you worked? And I was like, never. It's like, I don't know. It's like, I didn't really have to decide myself to come into this. It's like, I kind of grew up in it. So then once I grew up in it, I kind of just was very, like, gratefully, I have like a spot kind of, but it was really interesting to see.
Yeah, I think a lot of it here is like natural progression of like whatever people want to do and how people kind of want to move and grow. What did you think about people really emphasizing things like on titles? Like, I know that some people were like, I'm a policy director, policy analyst, or like coordinator, and like a lot of them were very emphasized on like titles and like names of stuff. So what do you think about that? Only because like they asked you who's our executive director, and you're like, not sure, because that's not something I think that here at Debug we're as used to kind of having and like expressing in our day-to-days. But what did you guys think about that kind of stuff?
I thought it was weird. I thought it was like, oh, it was like a weird, not a pyramid scheme, but it definitely felt like a pyramid. Like, this is a guy on top.
Like a hierarchy.
Yeah, hierarchy. And I don't like that, because I feel like, well, does this person above me have a bigger say than me? Like, what are their qualifications to have a bigger say than me? Because I of course, I respect that if you came from somewhere low and you made it into a high spot with the title like that, of course, it's going to feel amazing. But at the same time, it's kind of, I just like it better when everybody has a say in something, because you never know what ideas might come from other people or what they might add to the conversation. And I just thought that this new concept was interesting, because at the end of the day, I feel like we're here to help people. We're not here to label ourselves, and we're not here to, of course, if you want to make like an impact and you want to be somebody more of a face, then yeah, for sure. But I don't think you need a label for that. I think that you can create your own personal career for that. But a label just seems kind of, if you made the organization, then of course you're going to be the owners. But also, it's like you should be able to create a space where you're respected and where people will listen to you, while creating a community in itself where everybody feels comfortable and safe to express their own opinions, or express, hey, this is what I feel strongly about. But if there are people that feel the need to get to a certain spot in that career, I feel like it's, well, I need to work to this to be able to feel like I have a say or I can make an impact in this community.
Me with like labels and stuff, policy holders and executive directors and all that. I understand people hold names like that, but it's also on that individual, on what they have to accomplish or what message do they have to pass. Because everybody's gonna have a boss. That's a label. Everybody's gonna have a supervisor. That's a label. Everybody, but it's what that person holds really. So I don't have too much on the label, on the labels and stuff like that. But
What do you guys think about the panel? I know that there was a panel of young people that are essentially either around your same age or just a little bit older that are now in like these positions and are advocating and are doing all this work. Like what are your reflections on that panel, on those folks?
I don't know if it threw you off, but it threw me off because they were in the crowd with us and they were like the most vocal people there. And I was like, wow, they're really into this stuff. And then I realized after, like, oh, they're into this stuff because it felt like they were higher above us, especially with them going and sitting down. And I was like, oh. And then they shared all of their stories and stuff. And I thought it was really interesting. But I wasn't expecting them to come, like, out of the crowd. I thought they were going to pull, like, new people. I was like, whoa, undercover. But were you talking about when they all sat in, like, 4 people?
Yeah.
I like the girl with, she said she had a kid. Do you remember her? And her dad, like, owned a nonprofit organization.
Yes.
I thought she was really cool. I was like, wow, she's nice. But otherwise, I don't know. It was interesting because one of the girls was sitting with us the whole time, and I thought that she was one of the most vocal people there. But then I also felt like, not excluded, because obviously not, I just got there. But I felt like, you know, when they know the speakers, so they're getting, like, special shout-outs and stuff, I was like, it was like, I don't feel like I have anything to add onto here, except for, like, when they asked for, like, oh, do you know, like, the definition or the meaning of this? It just felt a little bit, I don't know how to explain it. Like, there's already previous connections made, and I'm just, like, the new person here, and it was just, it definitely felt like, okay, well, since she's closer to these people, she's definitely done more work, she's definitely been more involved, she's definitely done all of this. And it was like, how do you get to that level?
I think the panel was interesting. I could have felt like it could have been more involved with us a little bit, but overall, just hearing people's stories and what they do and how they came up, and what their goal is now. It was good. It was very informational, but I wish it was more interactive with us because we're the ones to share more and give more information input. And overall, it was good. Hopefully the next one can be a little better, but more interactive and more questions asked and more circle talk type thing.
I know they had, like, a circle at the end, but I feel like for I puked and we had to leave because the food made me sick. So we left, like, before the very last one. But I felt like during that panel talk, I thought it was going to be, like, a bounce off where, like, they share their stories, we share ours, and then we kind of go back and forth. But I feel like that wasn't the case. I feel like it was just, like, this is what we experienced, and then they just talked on the mic for a really long time. And then they kind of called on, like, they called on the people that they knew in the crowd that they were close with to add on to stuff. So it felt like we were kind of just, like, listening to stories versus being more interactive, which I completely agree with you on.
I know that they did have an interactive part. I mean, you won a book. What did you get a book on? Or what question did you answer to win a book?
That was my favorite lecture. The lady teaches, actually, I'm considering going to Sac State after I transfer, because I went to Sacramento recently and I learned some stuff, and then that lady teaches there. I forgot your name, I'm sorry. But I thought she was really cool. And then the people that were speaking, they talked about police brutality because a lot of it was about incarceration, and that's my jam right there. So I knew what I was talking about. And they asked me to add on to stuff like, oh, what did you learn from this, or, like, what can you take away, I think. So I really added on that I did learn about, like, liberating schools, which is where you get police officers off the campus of schools where they don't have police officers roaming the schools, which I think they did it in Oakland, which I thought was like really cool because I didn't know that was a thing. Like I have an officer on my campus, which I talked about with Savannah, which is unnecessary in my opinion, but I thought that was like the coolest lecture that they had, and I really enjoyed it.
Which one was your favorite session?
The policy, learning about policy, and there's a lot to policy, so I can't even really talk about it, but it's so interesting to me, and through my journey that I've been through, incarcerated and everything, I feel like I would be a good fit for that. I'm not saying I want to do that, but it got my attention for sure, so that was something that was interesting.
What would you say a highlight of the conference was? We kind of talked about like what you thought could be better or what you thought about some of the different sessions, but what was like your highlight from the trip or even just overall the trip?
I have to think. Yeah, that is a tough one. It's probably when I seen the straws in your vaccine. No, I'm kidding. I really do think it was that lecture. She talked about all of the influential ladies that kind of mentored her, and they had a mural, and I just thought it was really cool. I just really, really liked that lecture. I couldn't tell you why. It was the one with the picture. They showed like the difference between the funding that goes to the prisons and then the school.
Oh, the guys
college.
with the mouth open? Was it that one?
Yeah. It was that one, that lecture. I thought that was really cool. That was probably my favorite lecture, and that was a highlight of the thing. Because also at the end, when the two girls were speaking, I felt like that was like the most involved that I felt there. Is because I felt like, okay, I was being heard. Okay, this is like interactive, and I felt like that was when I really did get to communicate with more of the people there and speak to them. What about you?
Really, I liked a little bit of everything, but one highlight I liked was when we did that healing or with the Native American type. Yeah, that was different. My grandpa always talks about doing stuff like that, but we never really did it. But getting that experience is my first experience, and it was a good experience. So.
Yeah, when you guys went outside.
Yeah, when we went outside. Mm-hmm.
What was your highlight, Alicia?
My highlight was getting to see you guys there. I think I've been a part of these conferences for a long time and kind of been through some of these like lectures and stuff. So it's good to be able to see other young people in the space because it's usually just me. So getting to get other young people out is super cool.
I noticed that people knew you. Was that like from like previous things that you went to, or how did you meet them?
Like I said, I've been a debug staff since I was like 19 or 20. So it's been a couple years of me attending kind of these sort of conferences, but overall just like other youth convenings and stuff. So you meet a lot of people and you kind of see the same people in the same spaces, and that's why I was excited to bring you guys because it's not me. and you guys get to meet a lot of the people too. Yeah. So you guys were new to those spaces. Like coming from debug and stuff, like what is your background and kind of what does it mean to be in those spaces and to be a part of like this larger network?
I kind of grew up with debug. The way I got connected with debug was my grandfather was killed by the police force as false identification, like he was a wrong guy in 2004, 2 years before I was born. So I've kind of grew up here in a sense, and I've learned everybody's stories, mostly with police brutality. I think Jose did like a workshop in Morgan Hill about the mural with all of these different cultures getting painted over, and I think that really sparked my interest in more artistic protesting with like this representation. But overall, like my main interest and my main knowledge, it lies in police brutality and that kind of stuff. So coming here, I wasn't expecting it to be more incarceration based, because everything I've attended is like the healing retreats for police brutality, or going to Sacramento for Bill AB 3021, that also focuses around police brutality. So coming here, I personally loved it because I learned a lot of facts, especially about like, and it did touch on like policing with the funding for LA, the police. I don't know if you've seen that. It was insane. Or just learning more about how much support kids really do have coming from high school to college, and how a lot of people are being incarcerated, and just the unjust in that system, which I didn't have a lot of knowledge on at all. And I can't say I know a lot of people that have been incarcerated. So it really did put a lot of stigmas. It kind of killed a lot of that for me, because I met like really cool people, and I was like, wow, you know, like this label that they put on you as a felon or being incarcerated does not define who you are. And it was a really eye-opening experience for me that I'm very grateful I got to have. And it even went on to police brutality, and they connected it all the way back to incarceration. So I realized just how hand in hand those can go. And it was really eye-opening for me, and I really appreciate being able to be educated on that. And it was my first kind of like adult thing with debug, so I just thought I was really excited to go, and I really liked it a lot.
I got involved with debug when I was incarcerated around 2018, and they've been helping me on my case and helping pass laws, and that's why I'm here right now, SB 1391. So yeah, I've been working with them, and I got to that point. I got out not too long ago, recently, about 2 months ago, after serving 6.5 years. And Debug's been supporting me the whole way through. So knowing that I had the support, not from my family, but through a community organization, and they really had interest on me and my case and everything else, you know, it is just good to have them as support, Debug. And then when I got out, they had a paid internship for me and helped me out, helped me get on my feet. And it's not like community, it's more like a family now. Like, I'm getting used to it, I'm getting comfortable. So that's my connection with the Debug, is through my dad who worked with them. He got me connected once I caught a case, and then they've been riding with me ever since, and since they ride with me, I'm riding with them back. But the going out there to a different space, taking myself out of the comfort zone, that's different, because I went to Sacramento to do this leadership meeting with a GPS monitor on my ankle. And so I went out there, and it was a good time. I was nervous. I didn't know what I was walking into, but I'm glad I walked into it, because it opened opportunity and opened doors. But being over there, it made me feel good. It made me feel good you guys asking me to go. I was like, oh, me? For real? Okay, I'll go. Why not? So it's a good feeling, knowing that you could get picked for things like this, and then meeting and networking with people. And network is the best work. So just meet everybody, shake hands, and talk. But it was real good. It was a very good experience, honestly. Oh, I got off an ankle monitor too. Yeah. So, yeah, the laws and everything got me passed and got me where I'm at now. Legislations and policy is just, it's crazy how things have to go right. Things are happening right now, and should have happened a long time ago. Seeing young youths lost and incarcerated for the rest of their lives, starting from 14, 15, 16, and they did more time in a cell than they did at home with their parents. I feel like that's not the way to go. Like, passing new laws and legislations and changing policy, and really taking into consideration on what that youth or that young kid, what his past was, what traumas did he have. You know, it all trickles down to something. So passing laws either for more mental health. I feel like that's the main goal for like incarceration, talking to these individuals that I'm with that are very cool people, but it's just like you ask them a certain question and it's different, and you can tell it's mental health, or they need to reach out to mental health more, and sometimes they say it but don't really seek it. I feel like there needs to be more of that, like changes in that laws and mental health in the facilities and juvenile facilities, and adult especially. I think that's the number one thing, is to focus on the mental health aspect of it, and then really changing it towards rehabilitation once things are going, because everybody has their own thing. So changing laws for young people, I think that's the best way to go, because there's so much to life after 15, 20, 30 years in prison, because you get out, you're halfway to your gravesite, you know. So changing that, and that's what I want to do. That's my goal, my vision, is to help people that were in my situation, but not go so far into what I had to go through, because I feel like I sacrificed enough time for people to get what they need.
Okay, so do you guys have any final thoughts or comments about the whole trip, about the experience, overall experience and overall conference?
I think it's really brave how you decided to put yourself out there, because I did see you connecting with the girl at our table or even talking to other people, and I think that especially with like just coming around this stuff and being fairly new, I think that's really brave of you, and that's really cool, and your ambitions, I hope that they go far.
Yeah, same to you with the police brutality stuff like that. That's a big thing that needs to be touched on, and they say they're touching on it, but you know how things work, you know. But slowly but surely the process will go. But overall, I think the trip was it was good for a first time. I'm looking forward to many more and connecting with.
Sure. Our next one is next month, and we will be there.